I think the gist of what you're trying to say today is you're really pro-vaccine, you want to ask questions. You have started a group called the Children's Health Defense. You're the originator. Right now, as I understand it, on their website, they are selling what's called onesies. These are little things, clothing for babies. One of them is titled Unvaxxed, Unafraid. No vax, no problem. Now, you're coming before this committee and you say you're pro-vaccine. Just want to ask some questions. And yet your organization is making money selling a child's product to parents for $26, which casts fundamental doubt on the usefulness of vaccines. Can you tell us now that you will, now that you are pro-vaccine, that you're going to have your organization take these products off the market?
Senator, I have no power over that organization. I'm not part of it. I resigned from the board.
That was just a few months ago. You founded that. You certainly have power. You can make that call. Are you supportive of this?
Let's do a quick count here of how, as Secretary of HHS, if you get confirmed, you could influence every one of those lawsuits. Well, let me start the list. You could publish your anti-vaccine conspiracies, but this time on U.S. government letterhead, something a jury might be impressed by. You could appoint people to the CDC vaccine panel who share your anti-vax views and let them do your dirty work. You could tell the CDC vaccine panel to remove a particular vaccine from the vaccine schedule. You could remove vaccines from special compensation programs, which would open up manufacturers to mass torts. You could make more injuries eligible for compensation, even if there is no causal evidence. You could change vaccine court processes to make it easier to bring junk lawsuits. You could turn over FDA data to your friends at the law firm, and they could use it however it benefited them. You could change vaccine labeling. You could change vaccine information rules. You could change which claims are compensated in the vaccine injury compensation program. And I'm asking you to commit right now that you will not take a financial stake in every one of those lawsuits so that what you do as secretary will also benefit you financially down the line.
I'll comply with all the ethical guidelines.
That's not the question. You and I, you have said
you're asking me, Senator, you're asking me not to sue vaccine pharmaceutical companies. Yeah, you are. That's exactly what you're doing.
No one should be fooled here. As Secretary of HHS, Robert Kennedy will have the power to undercut vaccines and vaccine manufacturing across our country. And for all of his talk about follow the science and his promise that he won't interfere with those of us who want to vaccinate his kids, the bottom line is the same. Kennedy can kill off access to vaccines and make millions of dollars while he does it.
Burning down the house. Yes, we are. Welcome, everybody, to Real Deal Media's #1 late night show, World at War. I am your cruise director, Dean Ryan, who is with you here tonight on a historic day for all children and everybody's health here, right here in the United States, as tonight's episode is called RFK Jr. Fights for Survival. And boy, did he ever. I was exhausted just having to listen to some of the follies from the former political party of the United States called the Democrats. I guess we should say the newly elected party of China called the Democrats. Is truly desperation is beyond just an English way. It is a corporate latte liberal kind of deal. And that's what we're going to get into here tonight. Everything elections here in North America. We're going to touch upon all of the new happenings right here in with Gitmo. Gitmo's in the news again. Trump is on. He is a dragon slayer these last 10 days. We're going to talk about that, but really, we're going to watch a longer piece tonight of the confirmation hearing, so you can hear the influence and the power of big pharma, that in the grip they have over people like Bernie Sanders, who you wouldn't think that would really reach to the low-hanging fruits of arguments that you would hear from a fifth grader. And Elizabeth Warren, I mean, these are horrible actors. These are horrible political acting scumbag, whorebags too. And it's so disheartening to hear what I heard earlier today. So we're going to hear that tonight. In the second half, Inspector Aaron Cates of Toronto is going to be joining us, and we're going to talk about the Canadian elections coming up here as Chrystia Freeland is making her rush to the altar of power there in Canada, because that's really going to affect all of us down here in the United States. Aaron has some intel he's going to drop about foreign interference in Canada, and this time it's bigger than anybody thought. Oh, yeah, and that's Canada. We don't even imagine the UK and all the other places in the Commonwealth, how sickening and just terrible of a discovery that's going to be when we finally look. So we're going to be touching on everything political here in the North America is here. So let's get to it. And before we do, we are broadcasting live on a very shadow banned Facebook. Hopefully you can see me. They hide the shows now. We're on YouTube over there at Dean Ryan TV. Hello, everybody. And as well as Rumble, who, yes, we're getting shadow banned there too. And nobody gets alerts anymore. That's from what viewers have told me. So I guess I should say I'm making a public service announcement. Wrote it down. Remember to share and like this episode. That way we can get past the algorithms. And that was my PSA. Okay, let's get some headlines around the world and in your neck of the woods. Yes, real deal headlines. Real deal headlines. Well, we're going to start off right off the bat here of North Carolina. Is now Trump delivers for North Carolina. In the wake of the LA fires, a lot of people are saying they're forgetting about the people who were the victims of Hurricane Helena. Well, now, this is coming on Natural News. We can see the cavalry has arrived. Trump has now delivered the long-awaited relief to storm-ravaged North Carolina. It is something else. And just totally ravished everything, in case you forgot. But let me tell you more about it now, as the cavalry has arrived. When Hurricane Helena struck North Carolina, there in September of last year, behind a trail of devastation, massive landslides, deadly flooding, destroyed infrastructure, turned entire communities into disaster zones, yet to no help, no avail from FEMA and the Biden administration. Well, the federal response was shocking back then, but now there's a change, as now just recently Trump and First Lady Melania did go visit North Carolina before they went to California and saw something that was very jaw-dropping. Well, now they have, as the results now, An army of dump trucks and heavy equipment is now descending upon North Carolina, cleaning debris, repairing roads, restoring hope. And Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem is now overseeing the relief efforts, ensuring that FEMA works hand in hand with state and local officials to deliver aid quickly and efficiently. I should say FEMA for now. That's going to be gone in the longer road ahead. But I'll tell you, a lot of people did help. And this is a national news article, so I have to give credit to Mike Adams, who was given close to, if not over, $500,000 worth of food and supplies to the victims of the hurricane. Good on them. Next, we have, well, speaking of that, well, now LA, Los Angeles now, defies Trump's orders and forbids residents to clean sites. Another DEI specialist discovered behind the order. This is something else here. People want to get back in their homes and they're not allowed to. Why is that? Well, Los Angeles is now preventing residents from going to their properties, much less starting the process of cleaning them up. LA County Health Officer Dr. Muntu Davis issued the no debris removal order. They won't let anybody. I would love them to try that on me. Well, his calling card includes promoting, quote, health equity framework within government agencies, and top value listed on his county health office website is, quote, equity. Well, just recently, January 15th, order from Dr. Muntu Davis read in part, quote, no removal of fire debris resulting from the critical fire area in Los Angeles County shall occur from properties without hazardous materials inspection conducted either by the United States Environmental Protection Agency, so the EMPs are there, or EPAs rather. The order listed a few other government agencies, but the health officer said nobody's going in. It's prohibited cleanup crews, removal crews of the damaged or burned properties located over there. It's not. They won't let it. So they're defying this. And this is happening across the board. I mean, we even heard about in the FDA. The FDA, well, somebody was going against one of the orders there, and they were taken away. They were just taken, halted away. I'll tell you about that. Yeah, so LA people are stuck there. Here's what I'm talking about. This woman right here, yes, the USDA inspector, another one who didn't follow, General, was physically removed from her office by security after refusing to comply with Trump's firing orders. Trump has given orders they're not negotiable. These people won't stop the DEI stuff. It's just incredible that they're so attached to it. It's like it was cultural Marxism all along. Or was it? Moving on. Well, speaking of Gitmo, Gitmo is now in the news. And aren't we just, finally. Well, yes, Gitmo is here. President Donald Trump has now announced plans to expand a facility on Guantanamo Bay to house over 30,000 illegal migrants. While the United States military base is over there in Cuba, has historically been used to hold terror suspects since 9/11, and detainees, including some of the accused masterminds. Well, using its latest symbolic move now, Trump's unprecedented crackdown on the border, or illegal immigration for that fact, has made a real precedent in the history of this country. Now, the immigrations of customs enforcement has conducted raids across the country, deportation flights. The administration is cleaning up the mess, the Biden. Well, in fact, here's Trump talking about himself. Then you're going to hear Tom Unman and Kristi Noem give their take after. Check this out, as Gitmo is now open. There's vacancy. Here it is.
Today, I'm also signing an executive order to instruct the Departments of Defense and Homeland Security to begin preparing the 30,000-person migrant facility at Guantanamo Bay. Most people don't even know about it. We have 30,000 beds in Guantanamo to detain the worst criminal illegal aliens threatening the American people. Some of them are so bad we don't even trust the countries to hold them because we don't want them coming back, so we're going to send them out to Guantanamo. This will double our capacity immediately, right? And that's a tough place to get out of. Today's signings bring us one step closer to eradicating the scourge of migrant crime in our communities once and for all. And it was just it's just an unforced error that we even have to be doing this. Now we need Congress to provide full funding for the complete and total restoration of our sovereign borders.
You are both the top immigration advisors to President Trump, in addition to Stephen Miller. He just announced that he's signing an executive order to put 30,000 detention beds at Guantanamo Bay. I know, Mr. Homan, you talked about needing more beds, but how exactly would that work, and when do you expect it to open?
You know, that is something that the White House is working on, to use resources that we currently have there at Guantanamo Bay. So we'll go through the process. The worst of the worst is where that could be utilized. So that potential is there. We know we need the infrastructure. We're going after these guys.
Secretary Dunham, who would run a facility like that?
Wait. What you probably don't know, there's already a migrant center there. It's been there for decades. So we're just going to expand upon the existing migrant center.
How would logistics work
for that? How would you get migrants down to Guantanamo?
Flying to Guantanamo, Coast Guard, they encounter people in maritime, they can take them straight to Guantanamo Bay. The worst of the worst, the significant public safety threats, we can fly.
We're doing it. We're already doing it. Would that be more expensive?
We're building it out and using more resources.
Mr. Homan, Secretary Dunham, what kind of civilian oversight would there be?
Civilian oversight?
Yeah.
The current civilian oversight that we have in our federal government today. We had an election in November that clearly said the American people don't want these criminals and dangerous individuals on our streets anymore.
One question that we'd like to ask is if you have a sense of how much money it will cost, how much money will be invested in
the bill or the facility?
In the facility at Guantanamo Bay.
We're working on that with reconciliation and appropriators in the House.
I do think isn't it?
Well, there you have it right there. Gitmo is now open for business. Can't wait. Well, speaking of Tom Hunman, he is now having a thing or two to say about the Pope, who's now recently throwing shade at Americans for cleaning up the Biden mess. That's right. Tom Hunman is now speaking on the total hypocrisy of the Catholic Church. As he now takes on the Pope, exposes the Vatican hypocrisy. Now stick to the Catholic Church, he says. Well, just recently, border czar over there, Tom Hunman, voiced the disagreement of Pope Francis over the border policy after the pontiff claimed that Trump's administration agenda of deporting illegal aliens is, quote, a disgrace. No. Well, here's what he said. He said also, including that there's poor wretches that don't have anything, would foot the bill of deportations. Well, Hunman, who prefaced his remarks to Newsmax recently, saying his lifelong Catholic, pointed out that the Pope's comments failed to acknowledge that Vatican City has substantial security measures to protect itself from unknown, assailants, I guess you should say. Well, he said the quote following, they have a wall around the Vatican, and if you're illegally entering the Vatican, the crime is so serious, you'll be charged with a serious crime and be jailed immediately. So he can protect the Vatican where he lives. He can build a wall over there around the Vatican, but American people are not allowed to? I don't think so, is what Hunman said. So, everybody's weighing in on this, even the pontiff. That's just how he is over there. Well, that does our Real Deal headlines, and we have some Real Deal politics to get to and some major politics to get to in Canada coming up very shortly here. So let's get to some Real Deal politics. Why don't we? Now's the time. Real Deal politics. Yes, it is. What a wonderful view. Well, we're going to start tonight with some outrage, a lot of outrage. This time first, before we get to RFK, well, there's now outrage with Tulsi Gabbard. Yes, outrage has now erupted over Tulsi Gabbard. And I'm not talking about Jim Fetzer's wonderful, exciting outrage. Well, this one's a little different. So now outrage has now erupted as initial Tulsi Gabbard confirmation vote is set to be held in secret. That's right. Republican members of the Senate are seeking to hold a public confirmation hearing for Tulsi Gabbard, whose President Donald Trump has now nominated to serve as Director of National Intelligence. Just recently on Monday, Politico reported that Arkansas Republican Senator Tom Cotton Candy, Mr. Cotton Candy Man, who chairs the Senate Intelligence Committee, is being asked by Trump and allies in the Senate to hold a public hearing. Well, the Senate Intelligence Committee usually holds closed-door hearings and votes, apart from some hearings that are made public. The private votes also apply to presidential nominations. Now, some of Gabbard's beliefs that are, I guess, a little contrast and not so congruent to what they believe, like Mr. Cotton. Well, our allies believe that particularly members of the panel would vote differently if their decisions were made public, because they want her to say that she doesn't want to go to war with Syria. She doesn't want to go to war with Iran. She's not the perfect little neocon of Miss Lindsey Graham. Well, Politico also noted that it's unclear whether Cotton Candy Man can change the panel rules to allow for the public hearing change in the vote. It will remain to be seen, but after tonight's outrage, which you're about to see here in a second, you might want to have a second thought about it after all, because there's a lot of lies that are being spewed from horrible, ugly-looking people from Washington, D.C. Speaking of which, well, now little Marco is back in the news. He's going to prevent lying for the first time ever. It's a new, he's turning the page of his own right. Well, yes, little Marco is now vowing. He's vowing to stop consistent lies from the federal government. He will not allow any more DEI in ethnic-based race training. It's very weird. It's very weird, as the story did get erased. Let's just get to the main story here and skip ahead of that now. Let's get to Big Pharma Democrats target now RFK Jr. Yes, what you're about to see here is something that it's a disgrace for the men who gave their life for this country, the Kennedy brothers. Well, first of all, it was a disgrace to see this just the other night. Who remembers?
Bobby has been nominated by President Trump to be Secretary of Health and Human Services, a position that would put him in charge of the health of the American people. I feel an obligation to speak out. Overseeing the FDA, the NIH, the CDC, and Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, agencies that are charged with protecting the most vulnerable among us, is an enormous responsibility and one that Bobby is unqualified to fill.
Yeah, who remembers that one? So let's get to it now. As we're going to now look at the Senate confirmation hearings, we're going to watch a good grip of it and look at the vitriol, the bad acting, and you tell me who's being paid by Big Pharma. Senate confirmation hearings for Robert Kennedy Jr.
News reports have claimed that I am anti-vaccine or anti-industry. I am neither. I am pro-safety.
Please proceed, Mr. Kennedy.
I am pro-safety. I worked for years to raise awareness about the mercury.
A letter the committee received from Ambassador Carolyn Kennedy.
The committee will be in order. And to the audience. Hold on for a second, Mr. Kennedy. To the audience.
You have previously falsely suggested that the polio vaccine killed many, 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 many more people than polio ever did by causing fatal cancers, while rigorous safety studies show that to be completely false. Here are the safety studies that tell us mifepristone is safe and effective. And I ask, Mr. Chair, that these about 40 studies be admitted to the record by unanimous consent.
Without objection.
But what you're telling us is if President Trump orders you to take action to make it harder for women to get direly needed health care, you'll follow his order. So if the president tells you to do that, you're going to stop that too. That's enough.
I got a real quick question for you. Are you a conspiracy theorist?
That is a pejorative, Senator, that's applied to me, mainly to keep me from asking difficult questions of powerful interests. I was told that I was a conspiracy theorist. That label was applied to me because I said that the vaccines, the COVID vaccine, didn't prevent transmission and it wouldn't prevent infection, when the government was telling people, Americans, that it would. I was saying that because I was looking at the monkey studies in May of 2020. I was called a conspiracy. Now everybody admits it. I was called a conspiracy theorist because I said red dye caused cancer. And now FDA has acknowledged that and banned it. I was called a conspiracy theorist because I said fluoride lowered IQ. Last week, JAMA published a meta-review of 87 studies saying that there's a direct inverse correlation between IQ loss.
All right, so I'm going to assume
I could go on for about a week.
Is there any one of them that you can say, you got me? That really was a conspiracy theory, or are you in a position to submit for the record? I think it'd just be helpful for every one of these narratives for you to submit that maybe for the record.
Last year, the insurance industry in this country made over $70 billion, while at the same time, 85 million Americans uninsured or underinsured. Do you agree with me that the United States should join every other major country on earth and guarantee health care to all people as a human right? Yes? No?
Senator, I can't give you a yes or no answer to that question.
Health care a human right. Is health care a human right?
In the way that free speech is a human right, I would say it's different, because if with free speech doesn't cost anybody anything, but in healthcare, if you smoke cigarettes for 20 years and you get cancer, you are now taking from the pool. Well, and so are you guaranteed the same right, or is there also a duty?
I'm sorry, I'd love to talk for an hour with you. We got a few minutes left here. All right. Every other country on earth says healthcare, whether you're poor or rich, young or old, is a human right. I'm not hearing you say that. That climate change is real, it's an existential threat, and it is a healthcare issue. Donald Trump thinks that it is a hoax originating in China. Question is, in your judgment, is climate change a hoax, or is it real, causing devastating problems?
President Trump and I, from the beginning, from our first meeting, agreed to disagree on that issue. I believe climate change is existential. My job is to make Americans healthy again.
Right, you believe that you disagree with Trump, you don't think climate change is a hoax, is what I'm hearing.
My job here is to
I'm just asking you that, Mr. Kennedy, not your question.
I answered your question, Senator Sanders.
Okay, you disagree with the president on that.
I answered your question.
Okay, I think the gist of what you were trying to say today is you're really pro-vaccine, you want to ask questions. You have started a group called the Children's Health Defense. You're the originator. Right now, as I understand it, on their website, they are selling what's called onesies. These are little things, clothing for babies. One of them is titled Unvaxxed, Unafraid. Next one, and they're sold for $26 a piece, by the way. Next one is No Vax, No Problem. Now, you're coming before this committee and you say you're pro-vaccine. Just want to ask some questions. And yet your organization is making money selling a child's product to parents for $26, which casts fundamental doubt on the usefulness of vaccines. Can you tell us now that you will, now that you are pro-vaccine, that you're going to have your organization take these products off the market?
Senator, I have no power over that organization. I'm not part of it. I resigned from the board.
That was just a few months ago. You founded that. You certainly have power. You can make that call. Are you supportive of this?
I've had nothing to do with leadership.
Are you supportive of these onesies?
I'm supportive of vaccines.
Are you supportive of this clothing, which is militantly anti-vaccine?
I am supportive of vaccines. I will. I want good science, and I want to protect.
But you will not tell the organization you founded not to continue selling that product. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So, Mr. Kennedy, I want to start with something that I think you and I agree on, and that is that Big Pharma has too much power in Washington. You said that President Trump asked you to, quote, clean up corruption and conflicts. Sounds great. You've said that you will, quote, slam shut the revolving door between government agencies and the companies they regulate. That also sounds great. So here's an easy question. Will you commit that when you leave this job, you will not accept compensation from a drug company, a medical device company, a hospital system, or a health insurer for at least 4 years, including as a lobbyist or a board member?
Can you just repeat the last part of the question? Can I commit
You're not going to take money from drug companies in any way, shape, or form.
Who? Me?
Yes, you.
Yeah, I'm happy to commit to that.
Okay, good. That's what I figured. I said it's an easy question to start with. And I think you're right on this question.
I don't think any of them want to give me money, by the way.
Let's keep going. Mr. Kennedy, it's just a really simple question.
Yeah,
You've taken in $2.5 million. I want to know if you will commit right now that not only will you not go to work for drug companies, you won't go to work suing the drug companies and taking your rake out of that while you're a secretary and for 4 years after. It's just...
I'll commit to not taking any fees from drug companies while I'm secretary.
No. I'm asking about fees from suing drug companies. Will you agree not to do that?
You're asking me to not sue drug companies,
No,
and I'm not going to agree to that,
drug
Senator.
companies as much as you want.
I'm not going to agree to not sue drug companies or anybody.
So there's a lot of ways that you can influence those future lawsuits and pending lawsuits while you are Secretary of HHS. And I'm asking you to commit right now that you will not take a financial stake in every one of those lawsuits so that what you do as Secretary will also benefit you financially down the line.
I'll comply with all the ethical guidelines.
That's not the question. You and I, you have said
You're asking me, Senator, you're asking me not to sue vaccine pharmaceutical companies. Yeah, you are. That's exactly what you're doing.
No.
Mr. Kennedy, you have compared the CDC's work to Nazi death camps. You've compared it to sexual abusers in the Catholic Church. You've also said that many of them belong, this is a direct quote, many of them belong in jail. I need to know, do you stand by those statements that you made in the past?
Senator, I don't believe that I ever compared the CDC to Nazi death camps. I support the CDC. My job is not to dismantle or harm the CDC. My job is to empower the scientists if I'm privileged to be confirmed.
So you retract those statements?
I'm not retracting it. I never said it.
Well, actually, I have a transcript
of me saying that it's a Nazi death camp.
Let me read your words. It says that the institution CDC and the vaccine program, is your description of their work, is more important than the children that it's supposed to protect. And you know, it's the same reason we had a pedophile scandal in the Catholic Church. It's because people were able to convince themselves that the institution of the church was more important than these little boys and girls who were being raped. That's pretty provocative language. You said in another statement to me, this is like Nazi death camp.
Yeah, I was not comparing the CDC to Nazi death camps. I was comparing the injury rate to our children to other atrocities. And I wouldn't compare, of course, the CDC to Nazi death camps to the extent that any statement that I made has been interpreted that way. Yeah, I don't agree with that. In 2003, the United States Congress Government Oversight Committee ended an over a year investigation of the CDC and used almost that same language. They said that the CDC, just one division, one branch, the Immunization Safety Office, had put institutional self-interest and pharmaceutical profits ahead of the welfare and the health of American children. So that was a conclusion by Congress. I think 97% of the people on it had conflicts. I don't believe that that's right. I think we need to end those conflicts and make sure that scientists are doing unobstructed science.
So I want to enter this statement, by the way, into the record without objection.
Without objection.
You note that all your kids are vaccinated. But in a podcast in 2020, you said, and I quote, you would do anything, pay anything to go back in time and not vaccinate your kids. Mr. Kennedy, all of these things cannot be true. So, are you lying to Congress today when you say you are pro-vaccine? Or did you lie on all those podcasts? We have all of this on tape, by the way.
Yeah, Senator, as you know, because it's been repeatedly debunked, that statement that I made on the Lex Friedman podcast was a fragment of the statement. He asked me, and anybody who actually goes and looks at that podcast and will see this, he asked me, are there vaccines that are safe and effective? And I said to him, some of the live virus vaccines are. And I said, there are no vaccines that are safe and effective, and I was going to continue for every person. Every medicine has people who are sensitive to them, including vaccines.
Right, so
he interrupted me at that point. I've corrected it many times, including on national TV. You know about this, Senator Wyden, so bringing this up right now is dishonest.
Let's be clear about what you've actually done then, since you want to deny your statements. For example, you have a history of trying to take vaccines away from people. In May of 2021, you petitioned the Food and Drug Administration to not only block Americans from having access to the COVID vaccine, but to prevent any future access to the life-saving vaccine. Are you denying that? Your name is on the petition.
We brought that petition after CDC recommended the COVID vaccine without any scientific basis are 6-year-old children. Most experts agree today, even the people who did it back then, that COVID vaccines are inappropriate for 6-year-old children who basically have a zero risk from COVID. That's why I brought that lawsuit. I don't want to. I want to emphasize
Mr. Kennedy, the facts.
I don't.
The facts. Mr. Kennedy,
Senator, not only that, if you let me finish.
You have had some time.
If you let me finish, Senator. If you let me finish.
This hearing will be adjourned. I still encourage the audience to be polite and respectful no matter what side of the issues you may be on. And Mr. Kennedy, I look forward to working with you.
Okay, yeah. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Hard to stomach, isn't it? Hard to stomach. Especially Elizabeth Warren, too. I mean, let me tell you, they're trying to get him round up, to get him to respond, because that's like bar fight kind of talk right there. That's bar fight. And it just shows you who's on the big pharma teat, who's on the payroll. Every single one of those clowns. Even Bernie Sanders. Yeah. Mr. Senator of Vermont, the communist of Vermont. Just unbelievable. Here's a guy who wants to make children healthy again. He wants to lower autism, if not make it insolvent. And he got all these people. Oh, you said this. And even the cousin, Caroline Kennedy. What a tramp. Anyways, we have a quick break here. When we get back, we're going to continue this political scorched earth kind of review here with good old Aaron Cates over there. He's coming down here. We're going to talk about Chrystia Freeland, who's now trying to take the mantle over there in Canada. We're also going to talk about Trudeau, who doesn't seem to go away. He's worse than herpes. And then we're going to talk about foreign interference, as the CCP won't let us be, nor will they let Canadians be either, for that fact. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back after this quick break right here. World at War. It is a war. Stand by. Get the new Real Deal Media Store Trump 2.0 sale. Just wonderful. And we have shirts, designs all the way from Canada to Australia to the UK, you name it. All you got to do is go to realdealmedia.tv. Just go to realdealmedia.tv or realdealmedia.tv/store. Make sure you use promo code Trump25 for discounts. Yeah. And don't forget your Ivermectin. Ivermectin, go to twc.health/Dean Ryan and get that Ivermectin tonight. Yes. Welcome back, everybody. I am still Dean Ryan, who's cruising with you to midnight and beyond here as we got a long way to go and a short time to get there. We're going to be now getting into everything Canada is. Another election is just days away. That's going to bring us to, it's going to bring us to now our Real Deal Canada as Real Deal headlines continue. In this case, there's somebody who's running who I didn't think was going to run. This is a surprise to me, but as if you've watched the past few nights, we've learned that Chrystia Freeland is running. But let me tell you about some of the cultural changes in Canada first now, as we're all learning here, aren't we? Well, there's now a great awakening. As you see the desperation in the tone, in the verbiage of these imbeciles that are just future roadkill, and we're going to have to just run over. Well, now major corporations, including Walmart, Starbucks, Ford, are abandoning diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives in Canada. Did you know? It's also reflecting a broader rejection of woke ideology altogether. It's a wonderful piece from Actual News. Well, the corporate retreat from DEI programs in Canada is driven by a growing awareness that these initiatives often exacerbate division rather than foster unity, as well as legal and cultural challenges such as lawsuits in the U.S. Supreme Court's 2023 decision on affirmative action. Research indicates that DEI training can lead to increased work tensions, racial suspicion, and hostility rather than promoting inclusion or unity. Canadians are increasingly uncomfortable with woke ideology, with polls showing the majority oppose racial preferences in schools and other identity-based policies. Finally, the retreat from the DEI marks a pivotal moment for Canadians, signaling a shift towards promoting dignity, equality, solidarity, and away from divisive identity politics. Unless you're Chrystia Freeland, who is probably trying to stay out of the prosecution targets in the crosshairs of Donald Trump by gaslighting Donald Trump and all the Americans alike. Here's a little clip, and we'll get Aaron's take as he's waiting on deck for a whole lot more, and we got some intel drops for you. Chrystia Freeland.
Well, I think we should start responding today. I think that we should publish for consultation a retaliation list. I think it should be massive, right? It should be 200 billion. That's not saying that we retaliate at 200 billion, but giving us like a menu, like a smorgasbord of choices. And we need to publish it now, because when President Trump says America first, I believe him. And I believe that he doesn't care that much if Canadian politicians are jumping around, banging our fists on the table, etc. But he cares about Americans. And I want Wisconsin dairy farmers to see themselves on that list and to be calling the White House and to be saying, Mr. President, we elected you, but now it's going to be terrible. We're not going to be able to sell stuff to Canada. I want Michigan blue-collar workers who make washing machines in Michigan to see their washing machines on the list and to call up the White House and say, Mr. President, what the heck here? We love selling stuff to Canada. Do not do this. And the thing that I think can sometimes be missed, especially in how Americans think about this, is
I think, if you will permit me, David, to put myself in the mind of Americans.
I think you guys don't think about Canada very much. I think when you think about Canada, maybe you think about hockey, maybe you think we're quite nice and we say please and thank you, and probably we say sorry a little more than you guys would. And I just don't think you think of us as major players. And that is fine with us. But what you miss in that calculation about Canada is uniquely in the whole world, we have economic leverage over you. You guys are not a big trading nation, but insofar as you export stuff, you sell it to your Canadian pals.
Wow. Did you hear that? She's trying to act like the heavy. We'll speak about this in some other wild and wacky things happening in Canada. Is Toronto's favorite son, Mr. Inspector Aaron Cates. Aaron, let's get to it now. You heard, well, first of all, how about those RFK Senate hearings?
Incredible. Yes, love it.
I can't believe that adults act like that, that are supposed to be politicians. And then, do you want to weigh in on that? Because
yeah. Good evening, ladies and gents. Yeah, I mean,
welcome.
Welcome to the show, and it's just insane. It reminds me of the Kavanaugh trials, or when Kavanaugh was getting sort of bombarded by like people from around
easily
different things. It was like going to school,
I know.
like preschool. Absolutely terrible. The guy he's a legend, and to treat a legend like that, just sad. But you have to understand, these people have no shame. They're willing to get us all jabbed all around the world, but they can't feed the people all around the world. But it's just amazing how these people are. So
well, let's talk about this, Aaron, because you sent me this the other night, and I shared this with the audience of her plan to protect our economy from Trump. Now, you could just guarantee this is the plan of everybody in that Liberal Party up north. They say she's going to wreak economic havoc on Americans. Is that even possible, Aaron, or is she just full of Canadian molasses?
Well, I'm going to have to, in order to explain to our fellow Americans here, let me take it back, rewind a step. Dean, I want to explain a little bit about the process right now. Because everyone remembers the Horror of Havana stepped down a few weeks ago, and he intends to step down. So what does that mean? He's giving till March 9th for his party to find another person to take over his position, to be the main leader in the Liberal Party. And also during that time, he has suspended Parliament. So right now we have none of our MPs that represent us in our respective areas in Canada to talk about tariffs and debate on anything right now. So our Parliament's suspended. We're basically being held hostage by the Liberal Party's trickery. And what do I mean by that is that the polls showed, Dean, the Conservative Party, Pierre Poilievre, is leading in the polls on every single poll by a super majority. So Canadians are leading Conservative. They don't want the Liberal Party, but Jagmeet Singh, our friend, is propping up the Liberal Party. Canadians want an election. We can't have an election. And let me just explain one more thing, Dean. So what's happening is the two members right now that the Liberal Party wants to put in is Chrystia Freeland, who is literally a Nazi. No joke, the other guy is Mark Carney, former Bank of Canada governor and also Bank of England governor. He's both of them World Economic Forum. They're still Christie is still on the Board of Trades, and he's also he's worse than Trudeau, to be honest. I think he's the guy who pulls the strings.
Well, here's my question. I want to ask you: who's the most likely of contenders or opponents that would go against Oliveira Pierre? Out of the two you just shared with me, is it Christie?
I think Mark Carney is going to. She's kind of there, but I don't think she's going to get it. I think Mark Carney is the guy to watch. He was in Davos, like literally, and he got caught by Ezra Levant and Rebel News. They found him going into the, I guess, World Economic Forum, and he's the guy that everyone seems. He's the one who's all about net zero and climate change, and even I guess the former Prime Minister Liz Truss, who was just there a short period of time in UK, she was saying what a bad disaster he was for the economy. He was all about the climate change, and England. Look at England right now; it's a disaster, sadly. And he's going to bring the same policy, the same World Economic Forum 2030 agenda to Canada. So right now we're just hanging on. We're being held hostage. Our Parliament's shut down. And what does that mean? An election's probably going to come. They're probably going to stall or do something because these tariffs, Dean, President Trump is threatening tariffs on Canadians. Within 3 months, Canadians are half a million Canadians are probably going to be out of a job. So they're trying to threaten and be tough, dollar for dollar with Americans.
Right.
It's not looking good. President Trump's not happy right now.
Well, here's what I find interesting too. Just the last thing on the tariffs, and I want to move on to election interference, but they never explain to the Canadian people. All these people are talking about the Chrystia Freeland and the other people. They never explain, Doug Ford especially, they never explain to the Canadian people why the tariff is coming their way, why that's even on the table. They won't talk about how the poor borders between our countries is the key reason of why that is. They won't say it. They'll just say, we're going to get a psychological
perspective. They're deflecting. for some reason, Canadians are saying to them, they're speaking up, why don't you just fix the border? Well, why don't they fix the border, Dean? Remember we had a Mountie, there was some Mountie issues with all kinds of corruption and stuff like that. Is there more corruption that we don't know about on our borders with illegals coming in? I mean, last week in Toronto, they seized $83 million Canadian of cocaine coming from Mexico to the United States into Toronto. The RCMP busted one of the biggest drug busts. I think it was like 1,000 pounds of cocaine. So, I mean,
Wow.
telling me that we don't have an issue. President Trump is worried, and I see where he's worried. And in order to negotiate, you have to put your feet in someone else's shoes and try to feel what they're feeling. And he feels threatened by China. He's threatened by Indian nationals. And he feels threatened by the Muslim community that's come here not with looking to settle and be Canadian. So,
Aaron, how much of this, based on some of the most previous shows we've done together about the selling off of Canada, how much of is this optics at all? Do you think, or is this really a struggle of who's going to control the mantle of power?
Well, it's really interesting because when President Trump wants something, look at all he's done in the last few weeks or a week and a half or something. He's every promise he's trying to deliver, and he's really bringing everything to fruition what the voters in the United States have asked of. So getting rid of the migrants, trying to get the economy back on board, getting the defense back on board, getting rid of DEI programs, everything is coming to fruition. So he wants the borders protected. Look what he's doing in the southern border. He wants the northern Canadian border protected. He knows that we have over 25,000 CCP military men in Canada, and our border is not protected. So Canadians are a little bit scared. All they see is bad man orange, but they don't see that we really are a nation that is not protected, and it's making the American people feel vulnerable, and we're not understanding, and we're coming in very strong without like proper professional negotiating skills. Out of all the premiers, Danielle Smith in Alberta, she's the only one that went down to Mar-a-Lago to try and talk some sense into President Trump to not do this. But as of February 1st, guys, buckle up, my fellow Canadians. I know they lowered the interest rate a quarter point today, but within 3 months, it's going to be really bad. And they're trying to, the worst part is, I'll leave it at this, is that our government, the Liberal government, Trudeau, who supposedly stepped down, is coming out saying how hard and tough a stance he's going to take against President Trump and the Americans, and a dollar for dollar on tariffs and stuff like that. We cannot compete, and it's going to lead to economic disaster. Oh, one more thing that I'll add this. Actually, this is very important, Dean. Sorry, this is really, really important, guys. The federal government is planning a stimulus package to help businesses and Canadians if U.S. President Donald Trump imposes tariffs on Canadian goods. But the scale of the relief will depend on the scope of the tariffs. So we had, during the pandemic, a major stimulus package for Canadians. Canadians were getting paid almost $2,000 to $3,000, $4,000 a month, just like that. So is that what they're trying to do to put us on universal income, Dean? Get the World Economic 2030 agenda?
Of course. They're doing this right now. They're doing this right now in the UK. A lot of the pensioners and people who are on benefits, they're pushing them over to universal basic income that Andrew Yang introduced to us years ago in our lexicon. Aaron, we're kind of due to time constraints. Let's get to it now, because let's talk about foreign interference. You brought me a video here. Who are we about to watch here? Because I know she's speaking in French, I believe, from Quebec or something.
Yeah, I'll get the English part. Okay, so what we're talking about is the last couple of years, our government, RCMP, has come out and said there's 11 MPs in the Liberal Party who's conspired with China. Trudeau is on this video as well, with giving his testimony that now he's saying there's conservative MPs. So we know that there's some MPs. Jagmeet Singh said in June 13th of last year that this is a major concern for him. Pierre Poilievre has come out and said it's a major concern. And now here we go. After 2 years of finding out in 2019 and 2021, did any Liberal or any MPs conspire with China to change any of the election and foreign interference? So we have the final verdict. And ladies and gentlemen, you can only imagine what they're going to say. But if you go to 16-minute, 30-second mark.
Here it is. All right, let's play it. Here it is, Aaron.
Listen up.
Got it.
From the Commission's work. Firstly, that certain foreign states are attempting to interfere in our electoral processes and democratic institutions. This is not a new phenomenon, nor should it surprise us. States have been trying to interfere with each other since the dawn of time. What is new, however, are the means being deployed by these states, the extent to which the phenomenon seems to be taking hold, and the fact that it is being talked about publicly. That said, and this is one of my most important observations, our democratic institutions have remained robust in the face of attempted foreign interference. Although there are a very small number of situations where foreign interference may have had some impact on the outcome of a nomination contest or on the result of an election in a given riding, foreign interference did not impact the outcome of the last 2 general elections. Although a few situations involving attempts to curry favor or develop problematic relationships with the parliamentarian have come to light, such phenomena remain marginal and so far appear to have been ineffective. Some may have benefited from the support of a foreign state, sometimes without knowing about it. But again, thus far, this does not seem to have led to any real gains for the states involved. Nor have I seen any evidence to suggest that there are currently so-called traitors in Parliament.
What? Do you?
Okay, let's talk about that. Aaron,
Okay.
you want to weigh in on that?
Definitely.
That's confirmation of the just third kind there.
After our 4-letter agency, RCMP, has come out and said there are definitely 11 MPs, and Jagmeet Singh is saying there's MPs. Trudeau even said there's MPs, but he said there's conservative. Of course, he's deflecting away from his party. There's 11 people on a list. We know 4 of them happen to be Chinese. We have 4 of them that for sure. I gave you a list, I think last week, Dean, of a guy who wrote down the potential names. I don't know if you have that, but there's guaranteed that there are people who conspired. So this lady comes out who did in the commission after a few years, and she said, "Oh no, sorry, we were just wrong. There's just maybe there is someone without knowing, but nothing happened really. There's no foreign interference, and that's that. And everybody go home." So millions of dollars spent on commissions, and Canadians are not happy with this response. This response just really shows where we are as a country. Here's the latest polls showing conservatives in the lead. Then you got the Black Québécois, NDP, and then the Liberals, which would be Trudeau's. And it shows you.
What is the NDP? What's NDP?
The new that's Jagmeet Singh. That's Jagmeet Singh's.
What is it?
MPs, New Democratic Party. Yeah, New Delhi
okay,
Party.
I thought it was
the
New Delhi Party. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Conservative majority. So there you have it. Okay.
So conservatives are leading right now. We want an election. We don't want to go.
What's going to happen? What is the
policies.
consequence? What are going to be the consequences of this? Because I mean, these people are so high up with crimes that they have to remain in power, or they're going to be prosecuted and executed.
And so there's a lady that her name's the Governor General of Canada, Mary Simon, which I emailed twice, and I left 2 messages with secretaries. And of course, I even wrote, P.S. I know I'm not going to get a call back, but she has the power to get people doing an election. She also has the power to get Parliament running again. Now we have major crisis going on with these tariffs. I know people can downplay it all they want, but I know that it's going to get really rocky, and President Trump is going to. They're playing with our lives. All they got to do is protect the border, get some more RCMP, put some more barriers, put up some more cameras, start spending some money and stop the fentanyl and the trafficking that's coming across, and the cartels, the guns and the violence. So that's Mark Carney with Jeffrey Epstein. He's one of the new guys that is going to be the new prime minister, either Chrystia Freeland or Mark Carney. So he's also World Economic Forum. Yeah, that's why I wanted to show you guys.
Yeah. There's no way they're going to give up power to any opposition party, because these people are just high end in crimes until the people of Alberta probably stand up and just throw them over, or they annex themselves.
Well, I think it's going to be Carney, because he's not really doing a whole lot of interviews. No one really knows what his policy is. He's an outsider. He wasn't even in the Liberal Party like when this whole thing happened. He just sort of coming in as an advisor. Now he's going to be an unelected official prime minister, and he's in Davos during the time that he should be, rallying the Liberal Party. Oh, look, he's with Keir Starmer there too, and another Bank of Canada. We all know about Keir and his trafficking and everything that's going on in the UK. It's a mess. I mean, we're really being held hostage. Foreign interference happened 2019, 2021, which left Trudeau in office, and now we got Jagmeet Singh, who propped up. Trudeau has a minority government. It's only because of Trudeau. Now, here you go. There's been a strait between World Economic Forum and Canadian public policy. Do you remember Klaus Schwab? We have penetrated the cabinets of Canada and Trudeau. And look, she's on the World Economic Forum as economic minister, and he's also on the board of trade. So, I mean, this isn't good for Canada. We don't need either of these leaders. We want an election. We want the Liberal Party done and toast. We don't want any of these DEI people in there, but we're being held hostage, and they're going to try and do all these tricks, whether it's an Emergencies Act and not.
And to my point, Aaron, point of why they're not talking about why the tariffs are coming to Canada. Well, you just had this happen just the other day on the border of Canada. A Border Patrol agent was shot and killed. I believe he was a U.S. Customs or U.S. Border Patrol agent. Yes, the person who shot the U.S.
Just last
Patrol,
week,
dead near Canada is not an illegal immigrant. She and her boyfriend are radical trans. Oh, great. They're trans Tifa now.
Trans Tifas.
Trans extremists. Her boyfriend, Felix, blah, blah, blah. This is very troubling. Survived since they've been charged. For some reason, the story is not getting a whole lot of attention. Gee, I wonder why.
Right. Yeah.
Why? Just like all the kids that were found at the border. No other network. Nope. Not a lot of people are touching that except for the independent media. Okay. So the Canadians don't want to talk about that. The Canadian.
That's why I'm bringing it up, guys. I'm gonna make sure you guys are aware. Share it, and we need your help. I believe the United States will help us through the economic hardship somehow. But right now, our government's looking for a fight. They are absolutely looking for a fist fight.
Well, Aaron, we've reached that time for our. Well, you guessed it. God, it's fun. Sorry, hockey. Final thoughts, everybody. It's that time of the evening. We're going to start with Aaron Cates. Give us your Canadian final thought, Aaron.
Awesome. I remember Joe Biden, Sleepy Joe, was going to say, it'll be a peaceful transfer of power. These people lie. The Whore of Havana said, don't worry, he intends to drop out and to retire, and basically leaving Canada hostage with our parliament shut down and really bad people who want to do some bad harm to us. So we want an election. It's very sad times when the people we thought there'd be a foreign interference commission and we get to the bottom of who conspired with China. That's let us down. All the safeguards have let us down, safeguards in both our countries. One thing that I think our government officials are not doing in Canada is understanding what President Trump wants. They're not putting themselves in his shoes, and it's big shoes to fit. But if you can understand how open our borders are and how easy it is for other countries from people doing really bad things coming into Canada, President Trump just wants to protect the American people and protect the borders. And it's a big question. I wonder why our government wouldn't want the same. Definitely be a hell of a lot cheaper to spend a few $1 billion to giving money to Ukraine than to have our country tariffed and taxed to death. So in 3 months, 500,000 Canadians will lose their jobs, and it's just going to get out of hand. So I'm just saying, 911, shout out to our American friends. Keep an eye on us to the north. I know in the south, President Trump's doing a fantastic job. But please keep an eye on us. We'll be here to share any breaking news and so forth.
Absolutely.
But we're going through really hard times right now, Dean. A lot of Americans don't need to know that. So thank you, guys.
And I echo your final thought, Aaron, because we are seeing the desperate last attempts to, withhold power, whether it's in Canada or England or the United States. And it's a nasty fight. It's going to get nastier because Tulsi's coming up. The Tulsi Senate hearings and all that, unless it's secret, but it's coming. And there's a lot of pissed off people who are being paid and bought off by Big Pharma. So that's kind of my final thought. You're going to see more of us. Quick show notes. Friday, you're going to see a replay of the Underground, 6 Underground, particularly the Ranger Buck segment with some new features. That's going to be Friday night. This Saturday for the general, I would love everybody to see Star Whackers like us members. That's why if you missed it the first time, you're going to see it this coming weekend. So big weekend here. Thank you. So for Aaron, Kate, I'm Dean Ryan. Thank you for sharing a bit of your night. Until next time, always remember to stay tuned and stay awake. Good night, everybody.
Good night.